Guess what? It's trivia time. Here is your fifth question for the We're Still Here in Concert event coming up on April 14th. As a reminder, you only need to answer one question correctly to be entered into the drawing. What hiking trail location will host the 2024 Audio Checker hike on July 27th? Is it A, Royal Arch, B, Maroon Bells, C, Longs Peak, or D, Myers Gulch? If you think you have the right answer, email us at feedback@aftersight.org or call us at 720-712-8856 for your chance to enter and win 2 tickets to this amazing show. Good luck and thanks for playing.
Thank you for joining us for the March 6th, 2024 Thursday reading of the Montrose and Delta News as seen in the Montrose Mirror. My name is Esther Frank. Today we will be reading the following main articles. Trip Around the World Begins in Montrose by Bob Cox. From the Field, It's Not Easy Being Green by Steve Mindendorp. And following up with local news briefings. Trip Around the World Begins in Montrose by Bob Cox. Montrose, in a small column in the New Zealand Evening Post in 1930, the writer described Elsie Lincoln Benedict as being a small in stature but very large in the world of lecturing. By that time, Elsie Lincoln Benedict was well known in cities around the world, but her roots were in the fledgling town of Montrose, Colorado. Elsie was born in early November of 1885 in Osborne, Kansas. She was the eldest of 6 children in the William and Adela Vandergrift household and was approaching high school age when the family moved to Montrose. The Montrose High School was among the first institutions to recognize the amazing talents of this young lady. She easily became the editor of the high school newspaper and began a long career as an oratorical genius. At about the same time she was starting her high school education, she met and became a friend and ex officio student of a man who was already well known for his use of the spoken word, Judge John Gray. In the memoirs of Judge John Gray, compiled by Gray's daughter, Mary Olive Gray, the beginning of the relationship was described as follows. My father delighted in helping people in oral expression. To mention an instance, that of the distinguished lecturer Mrs. Elsie Vandergrift Benedict, a Montrose girl. In her lectures, she often made reference of her debt to my father for granting her request as a girl to learn her how to speak pieces. She claimed he gave her the best instruction she ever had. Other documents from the Gray family indicated that the first encounter Elsie had with Judge Gray literally took place on the street. In the February of 2021 of the Uncompahgre Valley Chronicle, a publication of the Falcon Trails Genealogical Society, the description of that meeting read, one time Judge Gray met on the street a small and raggedly dressed girl. He asked her name and was told that it was Elsie Vandergrift. And the girl said, I always go to court when I know you are going to talk. The judge became interested in the young lady and gave her a chance to study in his office. Today, the lady is Elsie Lincoln Benedict, world-famous psychoanalyst and lecturer. The judge received letters from her regularly. During her high school years in Montrose, Elsie Vandergrift began her career as an orator in a big way. When she entered the first oratorical contest between Western Slope high schools held in Montrose, she took first place honors for her speech, entitled The Advantage of Difficulties. Her speech that day was described by both Montrose newspapers as captivating the audience. That ability stayed with her for many years. From 1905 to 1907, she attended the University of Denver and studied psychology. She then returned to Montrose, where she was featured with Myrtle Goodrich at the Montrose Opera House. Elsie performed in oratory The Chariot Scene from Ben-Hur. The Montrose Enterprise described the performance in the September 3rd, 1907 edition. The great chariot race is the dramatist's idol, and so true to life was the rendition given by Miss Vandergrift. That of her hearers felt that they were actually members of the great throng in the amphitheatre, experiencing the throb and passion of the friends of Ben-Hur as their charioteers made their maddening race around the arena. And it was several moments before the spell was broken and the audience broke forth in enthusiastic applause. The next year, at the age of 23, while attending the University of Colorado Boulder, Elsie became the first woman student to participate in the annual oratorical contest. She was competing against 4 male orators. She did not win the top prize, but her entry alone marked a significant change in women's roles in both academia and public life. The Montrose Press referred to the contest as a trailblazing role. In 1909, Elsie took on the task of being the official reporter of the Colorado Senate. She served at the pleasure of Governor John Shafroth for 3 years, then became chief of the advertising department of the State Land Office. In 1912, according to the Montrose Daily Press, she had a major disagreement with Judge George Thorne, who was the chief clerk of the Land Office, largely due to her involvement in the early stages of the suffragette movement. The dispute resulted in her transfer to a lesser-known position in the state's Insurance Commissioner's Office. She went on to apply her oratory skills and gained national attention in the suffrage movement. She was chosen by Carrie Chapman Catt to address a rally in New York. The New York media described that she had such articulate abilities as to cause a somewhat reluctant audience to be won over. Elsie's involvement in the suffrage movement gained her national attention. Alice Rowe, a columnist for the New York Globe, described an instance in New York. She dropped into a big debate at the Republican Club of Brooklyn the other night. She was not on the program, but when the discussion was open to the House, she turned the tide of an anti-suffrage audience to a wild outburst of applause by the clear and concise manner in which she put the arguments of Miss Alice Chittenden, prize debater of the antis to rout. On November 1st of 1914, Elsie Vandergrift became the bride of Denver newspaperman Ralph P. Benedict. She spoke of their engagement in one of her lectures, saying that Mr. Benedict proposed to her over a long-distance phone call. She and her husband became world travelers, and she wrote several books under the name Elsie Lincoln Benedict. Most were co-authored by Ralph Benedict. During her travels, she became very popular in New Zealand, and the New Zealand National Library has in its archives several of her writings. Sadly, none of those books or writings are available in Montrose, where it all began. During her amazing popularity, she still wrote letters to her friend and mentor, Judge John Gray. She began a subscription-style organisation whereby members would receive regular updates in her efforts encouraging self-evaluation on the part of her students and friends. In October of 1929, she was in Honolulu, Hawaii, promoting the organisation where she sent typewritten letters to the members. On the back of one of these typewritten letters was a handwritten letter to Judge Gray. She included a photo of her and her entourage. The original letter is now in the possession of Gray's great-great-granddaughter, Leslie Gray Cox. In part, the letter reads, "Dear Judge Gray, I thought you'd be interested to see the opposite side of this. You'll never recognize me in the picture, so I'll explain that your law student of 30 years ago is the shortest lady. Everything goes well with me, better than anyone can deserve, and I have you to thank for a good portion of it. Loving, as always, Elsie." The next July, Elsie was in New Zealand, where, according to the New Zealand Evening Post, she gave another of her series of around-the-world lectures, entitled Miracles You Can Perform, to members of the International Opportunity League. Elsie Lincoln Benedict having outlived her husband by nearly 30 years, died on February 5, 1970 in California. From the Field, It's Not Easy Being Green by Steve Middendorp. Agriculture Beat, Montrose. According to the USDA, 84.7% of US farms are small family farms. More shocking is that these farmers typically rely on off-farm sources for the majority of their household income. This data from the USDA suggests that family farms only operate these businesses as a side gig to their primary jobs. It is the one indicator that could change the farming landscape in the years to come, as the average age of a farmer in the US is 57.5 years old. This is not an occupation that is calling out to young people entering the workforce. The latest USDA census data compares 2022 data to 2017. In this 5-year time span, the number of family farms dropped by 141,227, a total of 8%. In the same time frame, corporate farms increased by 10,808, a total increase of 9.25%. The U.S. Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition and Forestry report in September estimated a $42 billion decline in U.S. net farm income, the largest drop in history. That is a 23% drop in a net income for a single year, and the third highest when adjusted for inflation. Record inflation has also hit the country in the last several years. A report published in Center Square in October found that Colorado's inflation rate is 5.3%, significantly higher than the 3.7% national average. The report estimated that $1,217 more was spent per household during the months of August and September. Audrey Gelhausen and Chris Della Bianca started the Billy Goat Hop Farm in South Montrose in March of 2017. Gelhausen said that they have seen 5 hop farms go out of business since they decided to make a bet on hops in a challenging market. It was mostly market-driven that they went out, Gelhausen said. Some of them were contracted for the Beer Colorado native, and when that contract ended, they go out. Another was basically just tired of working so hard to earn so little. 98% of hops were grown in the PNW, so most brewers buy from there because it's the norm and it's easier. It's really difficult to get folks to switch, or at least switch for some varieties. We have worked really hard to sell. We visited over 800 breweries in the Southwest, in person, newsletters, emails, phone calls. Other folks also did it as a retirement project or a side business. We're in too deep at this point to get out of it if we wanted to. Gelhausen and Della Bianca have noticed the increased cost of running a farm business along with the labor-intensive process of planting and harvesting hops. The rising costs certainly have affected us, Gelhausen said. We had to raise our prices, which can make it harder for breweries to buy from us. There's not a lot that we can change without affecting the quality of our product, which we aren't willing to do. The quality of the product is often what drives and motivates new farmers to begin cultivating the soil, but the financial reality doesn't provide opportunities for new farmers to break into the field. As of 2017, 56% of farmers work a primary job off of the farm. Nearly 2/3 of young farmers need to work a primary job separate from their farming business. The new census data states that the total number of US farmers is 2 million, and 1.3 million of those farmers are retirement age or older. Only 300,000 farmers are under the age of 35. While family farms are going out of business, corporate farms are picking up the slack. The market value of farmland around the country increased by 39.7% from 2017 to 2022. The market value of agricultural products has increased, as well as the costs of machinery, fertilizer, pesticides, and fuel. Starting a first-generation family farm requires a hefty investment, which doesn't provide opportunity to young, aspiring farmers. There are programs that aim to help young farmers get started, but it doesn't help young farmers with the capital to get a piece of farmland to start working the land. Valley Food Partnership in Montrose provides a program called Cultivating Farmers and Ranchers That Thrive, CFRT, as a program that offers learning opportunities for first-generation farmers. The reporter of this article notes, "I was a student of this program for the 2023 year as my wife and I purchased a 6.8-acre piece of farmland to start our own small farm." The Billy Goat Hop Farm has managed to continue their business with a thorough marketing scheme and by visiting 800 breweries. Local farmers selling produce to feed the families of Montrose are not having as much luck competing with the grocery chains and corporate agriculture. Cody Masden and Justin Hansen have made the difficult decision to discontinue their farm operation, Deep Roots Ag, which has been selling fresh produce to the community for the last 3 years. The small farmer cannot compete with the larger companies, City Market, Walmart, Natural Grocers, Hansen said. There is some loyalty among the customers to the small farmer, but they always seem to go back to the bigger store for the conveniences. The bigger store is able to carry a larger selection, more variety, which us smaller farms may not always have ready at the time people want it. Deep Roots Ag was another farm operation that started with the intent to change the community and provide a service. Hansen and Masden wanted to provide high-quality vegetables to the market, vegetables that aren't sitting for weeks on semi-trucks transported across the country or even across multiple countries. The small farmer has to invest money to get the farm operation going and countless hours of labor. At the end of the day, they are just not able to compete with the prices and convenience of Main Street grocery chains. As inflation has been rising, small farm income is declining. A report by the Center Square in October said Colorado's inflation rate is 5.3%, while the national average is 3.7%. The agricultural land is diminishing as it is purchased, split and converted into residential or commercial properties. Montrose has historically been an agricultural community, but the state of farming in the area is grim for new aspiring farmers. Zandon Bray, a Colorado Farm Bureau board member, responded to some questions about the state of family farms in Colorado. "I believe there has been a decrease in young people pursuing farming and ranching careers," Bray said. Lifestyle, long working hours, lack of secure income all play a role in why people are not going into farming and ranching. It's hard for family farms and ranches to support multiple families without significant outside income streams. Lots of family farms and ranches will be sold out of production agriculture. Bray also said one of the biggest concerns, aside from rising costs for farmers in Colorado, is addressing radical points of view and public image issues. He also says that defeating burdensome regulations is necessary for the successful future of family farms and agriculture. European farmers are protesting various regulations that increase costs and bureaucratic paperwork while diminishing yields. An Associated Press article included comments from a Belgian farmer that described the frustration with regulations that are intended to curb effects of climate change. Belgian farmer Bart Doki said, "They also supervise us with satellite images and even with drones." He also details the requirements for meticulously documenting every fertilizer and pesticide that is received on the farm within 7 days. And it has to be done even at the busiest times on the field, of course. Then it has to be registered exactly how it is spread on every single little plot of land, how many kilos, and how it is distributed. In the United States, Congress has been considering a bill called the Agriculture Resilience Act of 2023. It has been introduced every year since 2020, but it has not received bipartisan support to pass. Democrats in the House and Senate have overwhelmingly supported the measure, while Republicans have stood firm against the legislation. While the bill includes grants and incentives for changing practices to reduce greenhouse gas emissions within a certain time period, it does not open the door to include issuing regulations providing incentives, carrying out research and development programs, and any other actions the Secretary determines are necessary to achieve the national goals described in Section 101. This bill would give sweeping authority to the Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, to implement any rule he deems necessary to reach the stated goals. That authority would also be passed on to any incoming Secretary of Agriculture in the next administration. The primary goals listed in the bill are to achieve not less than a 50% reduction in net greenhouse gas emissions, as compared to those levels during calendar year 2010, by not later than December 31st, 2030, and net zero emissions by not later than December 31st, 2040. Last summer, the Biden administration announced an investment of $300 million to improve measurement, monitoring, reporting, and verification of greenhouse gas emissions. That money is a portion of the $20 billion that was authorized under the Inflation Reduction Act to advance climate-smart agriculture and forestry practices. While there is a national disagreement between the two major parties regarding climate change and agricultural policy, there is a struggle for small family farms locally on the Western Slope. Policies regarding agriculture may help reduce greenhouse gases, but they may also further push smaller family farms out of the agricultural market. The consensus among farmers on the Western Slope is to use the practices that provide the best quality product for the consumer. Colorado State Patrol to save lives. Special to the Mirror. Colorado. Donations of blood see a sharp decline during the winter months, but this doesn't stop the need. According to Vitalant, every 2 seconds, someone in the US needs blood. Whether an ongoing health condition like cancer or the need for a blood transfusion from a traumatic injury like a motor vehicle crash, the need for donations is still there. The Colorado State Patrol is partnering with Vitalant for the 4th year to advance its shared mission of saving lives. Registration is now open to donate blood during the month of March 2024 for the Colorado State Patrol Blood Drive. Troopers are asking you to join them in giving the gift of life. To sign up, receive an email invitation to donate by visiting northeast.vitalant.org, northeast.vitalant.org. You get to pick the location and time that works best for you. There are 11 permanent locations, including communities such as Grand Junction, Colorado Springs, Greeley, and Denver. Plus, there are regularly occurring mobile locations all across Colorado. Blood and platelets cannot be manufactured. They can only come from volunteer donors like you. Your single donation has the ability to save up to 3 lives. On behalf of the Colorado State Patrol, please join our virtual blood drive to help save your Colorado friends, family, and loved ones. Thank you for being so willing to help in this life-saving cause. Colonel Matthew C. Packard, Chief of the Colorado State Patrol, thanks you for this life-saving gift. Thank you for joining us for the Montrose and Delta News. My name is Esther Frank.